Hello and welcome and happy Thursday. It's episode number 50 of this show, and I feel like we're just getting started. It's This Is Going Well, I Think, with David Cooper, and I'm David Cooper. It's This Is Going Well, I Think, the show where no one's listening, the show where no one cares, the show where every show's the last show, even this one. So let's jump in. We are joined today by sexual health and consent educator Samantha Bitty. You know, I used to interview her a lot on commercial radio, and we do the regular sexual health and consent topics that are her bread and butter. But I love having her on this show because we go a little deeper. We get to know her and we have a lot more fun. It's exactly why I like this medium. It's the nuggets between takes that I think really shine with Samantha and why I'm so excited to talk to her today and also complain that I found my first gray pubic hair. Hello.
Hello.
You're smiling. Okay. It's a thin facade. Are those the right words I'm looking for? A thin facade on top of pain, despair, just dull annoyance. What's going on with you?
I have an injury. I have a knee injury that is persistent, and I can't do any of my activities, and it's like not getting better.
Ugh.
And so I've just been in like a lot of physical pain, and so that's been hard. And yeah.
Well, you sound fantastic. I couldn't be more happy for you. I'm kidding. That fucking sucks, and I'm sorry to hear all that.
Thank you. I just want to play my sports.
I don't know if this is the same. It might be just as bad. It probably isn't, but it's serious. I got my first gray pubic hair the other day.
Okay. Yeah. We should talk about this because I have a funny...
Oh, we're talking about it.
I mean, like on the... Okay, good.
Oh,
good.
The episode has started, Samantha.
What do you mean?
I start taping right away, always, and then afterward, someone's like, oh, that fucked up shit I said at the beginning, is that in the episode? Of course I'll cut it for you. But I find the good gems happen before I, quote, start the taping. So I've started, but if you were to say something totally messed up, I'd be like, of course that's not going to be in the episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I never say anything totally messed up, so there's nothing to worry about.
It's a slight breach of trust, but it's built on a trustworthy act of, okay, the goal of the breach of trust is to get the good nuggets. It's not to blindside the person with a hit piece because they said something that they thought wasn't taped. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say sideswipe because blindside is ableist.
Fair enough. Sideswipe. And also as a consent educator, you're unhappy with this.
Is it implied consent that...
No, I just think it's a different ballpark. First of all, you know, we both live in one party consent recording jurisdictions. I live in New York, you live in Ontario.
Okay.
So it's not actually needed. However, I would like to think that you would trust me not to release something that would destroy you. I also don't think you're pretty unlikely to say something like that.
Yeah, exactly. As I said before, I never say anything messy.
You know, you always leave the racism, the sexism to when we don't have the microphones on.
Exactly that. Okay, so gray pubic hair, your first one.
Yeah.
I mean, you had a good run.
Did I though?
37? I got my first gray pubic hairs like 7 years, like 30.
Wow.
But my theory about it is, and there's still only there's three. There's like three ones. And I'm convinced that those were like the first three that came in because I remember getting them and telling my mom, because obviously I had no sex education. There was no way that I would know that that was something that was going to happen to my body. And I don't know, maybe I was like 11 or something. And I was like, I got hair like on my private parts. And she was like a lot. And I was like, no, there's like 3. And she laughed. Like her response to that was laughter, like a reactionary laughter, which I now understand because she was probably like, like full bush, like thinking it's so funny that there would be like 3 little whatever pubic hairs. So all this to say, family, not the place to get sex ed from, but also I think those are my 3 grays. I'm like, y'all were the first that came in.
Interesting. I don't know where my first came in. It's like when you kill I guess, I don't know if you have cockroaches in your building, but I killed one in the hall the other day, and I'm like, do I leave its corpse for its brothers and sisters, siblings, to like know that I made an example out of him, like some Game of Thrones whack shit? Or are they going to see the dead one and then rebel and invade my apartment? So if I pluck the gray hair, are the other ones going to rebel against me? Or do I so I leave it, or do I pluck it to set an example? Like if you come in gray, you're gone.
So my YouTube algorithm populated a video for me the other day or last night that was like, why do flies die as soon as they see a dead fly? And I didn't watch it, so I don't know the answer. I don't think the same applies to cockroaches. So just as a little aside, but why do you need to pluck it? Like, what would be the motive? Is it because you're like a young girlfriend and you're like, oh, I don't want her to know that I have like an aging dick, or like what?
I'm trying to conceal my aged dick. No. I don't know. I'm fine with getting the salt and pepper. I used to pluck them off my head, and then eventually you lose the arms race. And then I started plucking them out of my beard, and you lose that arms race. And I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's to preserve my pelvic youth. I don't know. I guess I don't actually care. But I feel like this is the first time where I've really, at least bodily, felt old. I don't know. Because people go gray on the face and the hair young. Mm-hmm. The other day I was at a wedding, and this person, she must have been in her early 20s, and she had a gray streak. Maybe it was dyed. I don't know. And I'm like, gray looks great on young people. But I don't know. In the pelvic region, in the pubic region, I feel like... Yeah, you don't go gray young down there. I don't actually know. You probably do. I don't know. But I feel like it's the last bastion of my youth gone.
I agree. Yeah.
Oh, man. What am I? 37, 40's on the corner? Mm-hmm. Around the corner. And then it's 50. And then you're dead. Is that how age works? I don't know.
I mean, I don't even think we're going to get that much time given.
You don't think I'll make it to 50?
Well, just like with everything going on, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not planning for it. So.
Yeah, but they used to teach boomers when they were in school to like put their head between their legs and get under the desk if they hear a nuclear bomb. Like it's hard to say whether it's all going to end tomorrow or it goes on and we live long lives. So I'm reserving judgment there, I guess.
Well, if I live long enough to see my whole bush go gray, I will be surprised. I'll be surprised.
The other day, I'm walking down the street and I hear a cry from a doorway. Help me, I need help. He's not helping me. Next to it, the smallest old lady in the world. She has the thickest accent. Is this guy that I might cross the street to go to the other side if I saw him coming. Like, he was not the most friendly looking guy, and he's helping her, and he's like, listen lady, I'm right here, I got you. She's like, you're making me nervous, and she calls, and then I end up helping her on one side, and this guy, Miles is his name, ends up helping her on the other side, and we helped her walk 1 block, which took 30 minutes, and she was hunched over, and she was a million, but she was going to the grocery store, and she lived alone, and didn't have an assistant. It wasn't an assisted living or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And it gives me hope that I could be an obnoxious New Yorker yelling at young men to carry me, no matter how they look. And then as she was walking down the street, she went from being abusive, being like, you're not holding me properly, to being like, you boys are so handsome. And she would like tell strangers, look, I roped in 2 handsome boys. And the fact that I was so annoyed because I had somewhere to be, even just added to it. I'm like, I'm so happy I'm in New York. I'm annoyed. She's amazing. It was a wonderful interaction that was also awful and annoying. And yeah, I don't know. It was the thick Queen's accent that I think really sold it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I guess I tell you this long story to say that one can age gracefully, although she was the least graceful person alive. There was something graceful about that.
Right. Like she was really embracing her role as a senior citizen and being like, y'all better help me
Yeah.
and do it in the way that I want. And I've lived this long and let me get my apples and bananas. Like,
Well, first I said, what do you want at the store? Maybe I can grab it for you. I was going to maybe pick her up a sandwich. I would have given it to her for free. I'm a nice boy. She's like, well, I want an egg and cheese sandwich. I'm like, I can get that for you. She's like, I want to browse.
yeah.
I just love that she was old, she had mobility problems, and it was everyone else's problem, not hers. And I love that she made it everyone's problem because at the end of the day, we're all in it together.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in collectivism and all of that. So I too am I don't even think of it as being like a good Samaritan. I'm like, if somebody needs help, I'm just like aware of it and I help them, whether that's like helping someone who's like elderly or like has mobility issues cross the street, or if it's like bringing my bat downstairs because I heard like a girl scream. Like all of those, all of that exists in the same realm for me of like, I'm part of a community, and if I'm the person who has the resources to like fulfill the community need, then I'm that person.
I love that you rush downstairs with a bat when you hear a scream. That gives me, I don't know, like
if I hear a woman scream, yes.
Yes, sure. Yeah. It shouldn't. This is probably the wrong reaction, but it warms my heart that you do that.
Yeah. Which to me, it's like, what choice do I have? You know, like I don't call cops. So like if I went downstairs for every scream, I would be downstairs all damn day. But if I hear a lady scream, like I take my bat and I go downstairs.
Just what's up with a bat? Anyway, I'm certain this person who I helped has not a one pubic hair that isn't gray. And she had no dignity at all the way she spoke to people. But in that lack of dignity in the traditional sense, she had all the dignity in the world. So maybe I should just be like her.
Yeah, embrace your gray pube. I actually wonder if all pubes go gray, right? Like, I feel like graying is so genetic and it has to do with like melanin and like all those, you know, and like there's people who never go gray and there's people who are gray at 22. So I know that my mom on her head, I don't know about her nethers, but like she went gray at like 30. And so for me to get like a couple gray hairs at like 30 on my head as well as my junk, I'm like, okay, like this tracks. I actually really like gray hair. And also I get like a ton of Botox. So it's like we all have our little things about aging where we're like, okay, I need to intervene. Like I'm intervening.
I hear you. I'm on Propecia. You know, what are you going to do?
Is that balding?
Balding.
Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned you haven't seen your mom's nether region, but did you grow up in a naked home? Because I grew up in a naked home.
Not at all.
There was no nudity. Like that was always behind closed doors, never caught a glimpse. And if you did, it was a huge accident and there'd be embarrassment to be had.
Yeah, I think like as like a small child, I remember like having like a shower with my mom, you know what I mean? Like her just like economically being like, all right, let's both get in here. We got shit to do. But like not at all. No.
Wow. My mom to this day walks around topless, whether her bedroom door's open or closed, doesn't matter. My dad's walking around naked. We always switched fits, my dad and I, like whenever we could take a sauna, you know, go to a place with a steam, all that kind of stuff. We were just a naked home. I don't know. And then my mom would bathe topless in the backyard, sunbathe, not bath. She wouldn't get a bathtub in the backyard. That'd be kind of weird, actually.
No, a backyard bathtub sounds so nice.
Actually, it does.
Yeah, if I had a backyard, I would have a backyard bathtub.
And I thought that was normal until I was, 12, 13, 14. I started, my friends would come over and they'd want it. My mom's hot. My friends would want to grab a glimpse at her and I'd be upset. And I'd be like, don't you have your own moms to stare at? And they're like, and so, yeah, I just, I guess they didn't have their own moms to stare at. Not everyone has a naked home.
Yeah, no, I knew a couple of naked home people for sure. Like, again, like once you become aware of that sort of thing, and you start becoming aware that other people's households don't operate the same ways yours does, like I came from a divorced family. Like when I was very, very young, my parents split up They were never like romantic with each other in front of me when I was growing up. So like I had no conception of like what partnered parents like looked like or anything like that. So, but again, I didn't know. Like I didn't know that that was, I don't want to say it was abnormal. It was just what my family was, but it's like it wasn't how other people's families were. And yeah, at that same kind of like 10, 11, 12, you start to notice, just like, oh yeah, like other people had, naked type families. My stepmother, though, she was kind of like in that second wave feminist white woman kind of energy where she was just like, like liberate the like titties kind of thing. So I definitely saw her titties, but it just, I don't know. By that point, I was just like, who's this woman in my house? Like,
Yeah. Stepmom energy. You know what I'm saying?
like, who's this bitch? Like, what are we doing here? So yeah.
It's interesting. So you discovered your friends have naked homes. Are you creeping on their parents in these naked homes or never?
No.
Maybe it was a teenage boy thing.
I think we all have curiosity about nudity because it's something that's so like protected, right? Like I think generally speaking, like outside of your own home, it's not like your parents or you would be walking around naked or topless or any of those things, right? There's still an element of like privacy to it, even if it's within your own home. So I think I definitely had the same amount of like nudity curiosity that like any person had. But the same thing is true of like, going to the YMCA and like changing. And there's like, like there's grown adult women who have like fully formed bodies and I didn't because I was like young and being like, oh, like, like there was the curiosity. But yeah, I never like, I don't know. It wasn't, I don't think I sexualized it in any way.
Household nudity.
Yeah, no.
I didn't either, but my friends did, and they were always trying to get a glimpse of my mom, and I don't think my mom minded, to be honest. She's just, just happy for the attention. You were mentioning your stepmom and everything. I was thinking about something. This is sort of on topic, or at least where I wanted to go with this. My parents were in New York 2 weekends ago, and for the first time in my life, my dad in particular, said some fucked up shit.
I'm sorry.
No. And he said it to me. I think he's trying to get a rise out of me because every time in the past when he's gotten a rise out of me like that, we get in a huge argument and I feel like I've won. But I feel like because he riles me up, feels like he won. It doesn't matter. It's a pissing competition with my dad. But for the first time, I just took a look at him and I thought, you guys are 75. I don't want to fight with you. And my response to what he said, which I'll tell you in a bit if you are curious, was, that's an opinion. And then I changed the subject. So, and I was happy with how I conducted because I didn't validate what he said. I didn't start with him. I didn't risk a relationship with my aging parents, which I'm seeing more and more as a bad use of time. It's not that they're perfect. They're not. But it's just like, I don't want to exhaust them. I don't want to exhaust myself. To what end? I'm not going to change them.
Right.
And when things do come up that are important, I will stand up for myself and those affected. But an offhand comment to me about what's woke, which I don't even think my dad, like any conservative who thinks woke is a boogeyman, can't even define the word.
Mm-hmm.
But I just said that's an opinion, change the subject. And so what I wanted to talk to you about is how do you deal with family when you just have such differing views and you find them problematic? Like, I guess the American stereotype, not that I celebrate it, is at the Thanksgiving table. How do you deal with that shit? I imagine some of your family, at least from what you've said to me in private, have opinions that you're not fucking crazy about. How do you deal with that? I mean, there's a bunch of ways, right? Shutting people out, conducting yourself in a manner that you're happy with, fighting with them. I mean, what do you like your recommendations to someone who's kind of your age and you're kind of peer, I guess, or not your peer?
I just don't fuck with my family. Like I guess I would say that I've been fairly fortunate in that as much as I don't have a close relationship with my immediate or extended family, we tend to err on the side of sharing values about things. And so it's not often that things come up that are like problematic or that I feel like I need to address. I think some of that comes with having like a long-standing interracial family where there have been many of the conversations that need to happen. And there's times when I have to like collect my dad on something who is like my Black parent. There's times, less often actually, surprisingly, where I have to collect like my white mom. But one thing that did come up, and I feel like this is so quintessential, is that like at Christmas a few years back, and I actually don't go to family holidays anymore. Like I just don't go. Like I'm just like, I will not be present at this incident.
Incident. The holiday's an incident for you. I love that.
My brother's wife's father, whatever that makes him to me, the topic of, and this was years ago, the topic of what's that problematic Christmas song? The one
Oh, the everyone's favorite Yuletide sexual assault song. Like I want you to. It's cold outside. It's cold outside.
Yeah.
That's so funny to me that everyone defends it, and I'm like, how can you defend this? Just listen to it and admit to yourself that you're disgusting for liking it. That's it.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like and this is why I say it was such a like, it's just such a basic bitch fight to have. And so respectfully to, and he said it and he was like, oh, I just don't understand what the big deal is. And I just kind of shut it down like really quickly and abruptly. And I was like, well, you know what? Like when you say that, you're completely diminishing and disregarding like gender-based violence and what I do for work. And I refuse to argue with you about this because like I'm actually the person with expertise. And he just shut the fuck up. And it's never like, a lot of things I'm just like, I have a good gauge of what's worth my energy and my time and what I'm willing to like adjust and put forward in the world. With that one, I was just like, not only are you being disrespectful of like me and everyone here, but like you're also being disrespectful of like the work that I do as my like lived profession, and yeah, he got collected and that was that. And
will you still spend time with him and you just don't discuss those kinds of topics because you know where it'll lead? Or
yeah, I mean, I typically will, anytime I'm at a family incident, which is typically only my niece's birthday. Like that's actually this weekend. So I'm gearing up to dissociate. The like children's part, I'm like literally going for the children's part. I'm not going for the adults part. Like the children's part, I bet you there's going to be a fucking pony. They had iguanas last year. I'm like, I'm going for the children's part. I'm going to hold like a bunny and like whatever. And then I'm going to bounce. Like I'm not staying for the like adults barbecue, all that shit. Like never. And you know what? I don't even have to worry about them hearing this because they don't give a shit about what I do. So I'll say, if I see a conversation going in a direction where they want to talk about, like even anything, even if they're going to talk about things where I share values with them, I will derail because I'm like, for y'all, this is just like an intellectual exercise for fun. It's like, I live and breathe this shit and I don't want to talk about it in my, forced recreational time. So, and that's how I feel in all situations. Like because I do anti-O for work, because I do gender-based violence for work, because I do all these things. If I'm like socializing or I'm like on a date and someone wants to talk about this shit, I'm like, no, like this is my playtime. This isn't just like fun for me,
Yeah. So for you, it's just don't go there. You just kind of set the boundary, derail it out of there because you know that if you go there, you might butt up against someone or it'll be exhausting for you when you're just not trying to be exhausted. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, it'll just be exhausting for me. Like I'm just not willing and I just don't care. But again, as I said, I do find myself to be fairly fortunate in that we all more or less reside on the side of like shared values around like human dignity and stuff like that. So I rarely, the funniest thing though is like my dad, who's like a Black man, is like, he can be like a racism denier. Like he can be like an anti-Black racism denier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is like not uncommon for his generation of like quote unquote post-colonial, like Afro-Caribbean people who have immigrated. Like it's like too painful or something for them to like reconcile with the fact that they were like the only Black person in their workplace or like that they experienced like marginalization or any of those. Like he just won't.
Yeah.
There's a sense of like other that as a tool. And
boomers were taught color blindness was the doctrine of the day, the anti-racist quote unquote doctrine of the day. So like I get it. And I don't argue with people who have that view. I just don't agree with them.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's different, right? Like because I am mixed race, because I'm I'm Black in society because my brothers are Black in society. When my dad says stuff like that, I'm like, you're also like erasing our lived experience of racism and stuff like that. So I'll be like, when he says like, oh, I never experienced this. I'm like, Dad, I like witnessed it with my eyes, like as a child. Like I witnessed that interaction as a child, and I've been calling out racism since I was like 7 years old. So it's like, it's an interesting thing where, yeah, there's just layers. And all to answer your question, I try to avoid it at all costs. And that sometimes means I just don't go. A lot of times it means I don't go.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. What do you do when your partner's family is fucked and they're close with the family? You just don't go. Same thing.
I don't partake. And I also, at this point in my life, I'm like, my conception of a relationship escalator has nothing to do with like integrating with someone's family. Like I just so happened to integrate with Jacob's family, and like I truly adore them. Like they're really lovely humans, and like I'm glad that I have those connections and we're able to like maintain like an appropriate and proportionate relationship. But my preference and choice is to not do that.
I was mama's boy. I went from like not understanding a world where you wouldn't do that in my early 20s to now just being exactly on the same page as you. It's just not important to me that a partner, no matter how close, no matter how our lives are integrate with my family. Because my family are fucked. And that example of with my dad, which I'll tell you because it's actually kind of fun with how wrong he is, even if you like break it apart.
Is it like really harmful though? Because I don't know if I want to hear something that's like harmful.
Not really. We saw a Broadway show. It was a R&B and soul musical.
Mm-hmm.
And he called the cast being diverse a product of a woke culture. So it's harmful for sure, but it's not going to cut you to your core, which to me was so funny because soul, R&B, blues in the United States
is
black, and it's one of the few arenas, like even during days of segregation, where black folks were welcome to be high-end performers. Now I understand the white producers, the white music industry was profiting off them, but it was like the one genre where there was visibility in like the 40s, 50s, 60s in the US. So for him to even say that, like I don't even think a Fox News correspondent would call that show woke because it makes no sense. That's why it was so funny to me. That's all he said. When he said that was woke, I'm like, that's an opinion, and then just dropped it. Because like, why am I going to start shouting at him about the history of blues performers and rock and soul, R&B and soul performers in the U.S.? It's just not worth my time. And he's not going to listen, And
also, like, arguing the point of white people's conception of diverse is anything that is not white. Like the white centrism of that.
Yeah.
Being like, oh, this is diverse. And it's like, it probably wasn't even diverse. It was probably just like a lot of black folks. And it's like, that's not diverse. Like that's a lot of black folks. Like diverse would be if there was like people in wheelchairs as well as like South Asian folks. So like, you know what I mean? Like there's diversity is like such a strange word that people have compartmentalized to mean anything that's not white.
Yeah.
And but the bigger question, David, why would you bring your parents to that show? Like,
good question. I knew nothing about it, and I read that it was a good show. And when my parents are in New York, part of my strategy is I just go to a lot of shows with them, because then it's like I'm spending time with them and I don't have to talk to them.
Yeah. Harm reduction. It's the harm reduction approach.
But the other show I took took them to was like more boomer appropriate. So. It's a good question. I didn't realize that. The idea that would be a point of view that my father would feel the need to state was like, why would I do that? I didn't realize. Now I know, but before that, when I'm evaluating art and what I want to see, that is not even close to on my radar. I did not think of what kind of music is it? What are the kind of racial undertones of that music? Will that be represented? What is that going to be like? Like these are not things that are, it's not my work. And so to me, it's just a fantastic show that I heard a lot about with some genres that I like. And I'm like, well, my parents would like that. To answer your question, naivety is why I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, more was revealed and you navigated through that. But yeah, it's interesting that and I don't, I don't think you're wrong for not addressing it, because that can be like a days long argument that goes nowhere, bears no fruit, and just creates tension where, as you said, like for what?
When they were in their 50s, 60s, and I was younger and I felt it was a good sport arguing with them and winning, I would have taken the bait for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But now they're in their mid 70s. They've gone through some stressful stuff the past few years. And I empathize with that. It's like, do I really want to get them all worked up over a comment that is just a part of a wider problem that I'm not going to change with my parents? And at this point, I don't even care to. I'll state my opinion if they like act in a way with me, my friends, my family. I will stick up for my views. But with a comment like that at a dinner with my parents, it's like it's the tip of the iceberg, and I'm not the iceberg. It just seems daunting. And do I really want to exhaust my parents in their mid 70s? Not really. I mean, does that make me a shitty person? Maybe, but that's where I'm at with it.
I think, and this is a question I think for a lot of white people. The same way it's a question for a lot of like non-trans people and like whatever. It's like, at what point, like what qualifies as apathy, as silence is violence, like all of those pieces. I and this is just my own personal perspective. I think there's many layers and many factors that come into it about when and where we advocate and how we do that. But in a situation like that, my advice to somebody who's like, you know what, my parents are fucking 100 years old. They're not going to change. They're like, whatever. It just becomes a situation of like, well, I don't bring my friends around them who could potentially be harmed by comments and whatever. Cause it's like, for you saying, you're like, oh, it's not like a dagger in the heart type comment. You don't actually get to assess that, right? Because you're not someone who is impacted by it. Somebody who's impacted by it could feel like, for me, I'm like, oh, like you're just like erasing like an entire legacy of music, like at the micro level, when that's already done at a systemic and macro level. Like, yeah, that's hurtful. Like, that's really hurtful. So it's like, just don't bring quote unquote diverse people around your family. Like, don't bring your like black partner to family dinner. You know what I mean? Like, those are the types of things that I think that at this stage, white folks can be doing actively to create the conditions for at least less exposure to it. So it's like, you might not be able to change it, but just don't expose us to it.
Yeah, and I'm completely on the same page. Although I feel like I should say stick up for my dad, even though his values I don't agree with at all. About 15 years ago, maybe 10, he wanted to go out with a dinner with my friends. He wanted to meet some of my community with my mom. And I'm like, fine, I assemble a dinner with 6 or 7 friends. And I didn't even realize, like, one of my close buddies is Palestinian, like family expelled, used to live in Ramallah. Last time he tried to go to Palestine, he's American, so he thought, I'll fly through Tel Aviv, I'll cross in East Jerusalem. Even though he didn't have Palestinian citizenship because his parents were expelled, he was born in Orange County. When his parents emigrated to Orange County, they lost their resident cards or whatever. He goes to Tel Aviv. They say, you're of Palestinian descent. You can't come in the country. You're going to have to enter through Jordan and apply for a residency permit, even though he's American. Like, this guy has experienced oppression, like, in the immediate sense. His great-grandmother was kicked out of her house during the Nakba, I believe is what they call it, which is ironically the day that Israel celebrates its Independence Day. This is someone who's been affected by the conflict on a personal level. This isn't just like a Jew who happens to be a Zionist, which is my parents, not me at all. And at the dinner, as soon as my dad and him were sitting next to each other, I'm like, fuck. And my dad's like, oh, tell me about your family. He's like, I'm Palestinian. My dad didn't say a fucking word. He just was chatting with the guy because they were both into business. They're talking about business stuff, business boys. So I don't know. I feel like when it counts, maybe they're not such shitheads, but when behind closed doors, the micro and macro aggressions are there. So I don't know. They're whole people, I guess, with views that I don't agree with. I feel like I just unloaded this all on you for no good reason.
No, I mean, I think that it's like a fruitful conversation and something to contemplate, and that we all kind of have to work through these different messy pieces because it is messy. And like, I feel like it's like my gauge or my like conditions around people's internal anti-racism work type stuff. It's like my standards for that are going to be higher
Yeah.
because of the path that I've taken in my life, what I've experienced, et cetera, et cetera. I my preference is actually for overt racism as opposed to concealed.
Yeah, this is why I love the French. Like, the Parisians are so fucking racist, but they're as racist as they are to your face.
Let me know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
You know, let me make a decision about whether I want to be in this interaction or not, you know, and those, like, as someone who lives in Canada who deals with like a lot of cloak and dagger racism and a lot of like cloak and dagger like homophobia and all this things, it's like no, like, if I'm going to meet you and you're problematic, like show me immediately, not so that I can like fight you, but so that I can like remove myself from the incident. Like, I don't want I just, you know, and how I felt about it 3 years ago is different than how I feel about it today, and it's going to be different how I feel about it in 7 years from now if I'm still alive. Like, it's just, I think that it is an ever evolving and lifetime process.
My worry for us is that I'm too fucked up for you when you're overlooking, you know. But that's what maybe my worry for us in our relationship is that, like, I don't meet your bar, like I'm too apathetic or I'm too much of a shithead. But maybe this is more about me. I'm making it your problem. Maybe I look up to you. You have higher standards than me, and I know I'm more apathetic than you.
What I will say is that for me, I espouse a value system of process over position.
Yeah.
So someone's position is going to be informed and influenced by all the different factors. We all have messy positions on something. I don't care how elevated, you know, quote unquote, you are. Like, bell hooks has messy positions on things that are like not contemporary, are harmful, are anti-Black, are sexist, like those sorts of things. I'm most interested in people's process. So it's like, if you've got a messy position and you get checked, like somebody's like, hey, like, I want you to think about this differently, or I have an issue with blank. Somebody's willingness to explore that with curiosity and empathy and all of that to me means so much more than someone who has all the like quote unquote right words, because all of the right words have just become rhetoric.
Yeah.
Via the pandemic and online activism and all that shit. Like, all we did was teach a bunch of racists the words to use, right?
To get out of trouble. We taught them, get out of trouble free cards.
Yeah. So the learned incapacity to me is so much more harmful than someone who's going to say the wrong thing. And when you tell them, hey, like this and that, and they're like, oh, okay, like, let me think about this more, or like, I appreciate you saying that to me. And even if they still arrive at like a messy place or what I deem to be messy, I still regard the process higher than someone who just doesn't say the fucked up thing.
Well, I am empathetic to change. For example, the beginning of this call, I said blindsided. You're like, how about sideswiped? I'm like, I didn't even fucking think of that. And why not? Like, what's no... I'm not going to sweat over changing that. I mean, I might say it wrong one or two more times because it's just a part of stuff that I say. But like, it's language, like sometimes you need words to get a concept through really quickly. If you don't have a synonym, you're going to fall back to the original word, even if it's fucked. But yeah, I like sideswipes. Like, and of course I'm going to play that in bed later being like, does Samantha hate me? Does she think I hate blind people? Should I tell her I have a blind friend? Oh my God, I just made the black friend argument. But no, this gives me hope for us. I'm always empathetic to, like, I know a lot of my positions are fucked. And when people, like, here's a crazy one and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
A wild one.
Well, I struggle with mental illness and I have mental illness in the family. So
you're like, I can say this one.
I can Jew that one. It's not even an appropriate use of that racial epithet, but Jew's a weird one. It can be an epithet or it can be not one at all. I love that.
It's all proximity with that one.
Yeah.
And if it's like a big J, like, is it capital J or is it like a soft J?
Yeah. So as an adjective, It's got to be Jewish. If it's Jew this, Jew that, it's always, as a noun, it could go either way. Like, oh, I'm a Jew. You Jew.
I always err on the side of Jewish folks,
Yeah.
Jewish people. Like, even it's like, I don't, one of the things I think people really struggle with as we evolve language to be less harmful is like, oh, I have to say more words. Like, as if you don't want to just hear yourself fucking talk. Like, just say more words. Don't just put words in as a placeholder for not saying more words. Say more words. You got time?
Yeah. No, I agree. I was at a wedding this weekend where the bride was half Chinese, half Italian, not like Catholic, atheist, but Catholic. And the groom was like a cool, hip, but Orthodox Jewish rabbi. But like a cool stream of Orthodoxism, whatever you call it, where like women can be rabbis, but we're still going to have fucked up view. Look, I don't love religion, but it was, and the rabbi's brother was a famous comedian. And so I was like, this is every comedian's fucking dream. They've got like Italian, Chinese, Jewish, like, and it's like the license to offend was there. And he said one of the funniest jokes I've ever heard. If I say it to you, you're not going to like it, so I'm not going to say it to you. But I find and I know that we don't agree here, and I'm sure you have a good counter argument for why I'm wrong, and I would be empathetic to it. But I find when, like I love Chris Rock. I love when comedians take their own groups that they're in and fucking just like the most awful jokes. But I also see how it's problematic, marginalizing. Like I see it all, but yeah, so I'm with you.
I feel like we've talked about this where it comes down to like the gaze.
Yeah.
Right. It's like who's consuming.
Yep.
Right. And it's like if my DMs ever got leaked, like I would be in serious trouble. Like I'd be in very serious trouble. But it's like conversations that I have amongst my own people, whether that is other Black women or it is other queer people or it is other people who do gender-based violence prevention work. It's like, it's our prerogative within our own gaze and our own community to, say certain things as almost like a valve, right? Like as a valve to release the tension and the discomfort and like a lot of the like pain that is connected to it. Right. And so I might not enjoy certain types of jokes happening in certain environments, but I might enjoy them in other environments. It just kind of depends who's listening, who's watching, who's perceiving.
Yeah. I got sidetracked about this wedding.
You were saying there was a crazy example and I was like, wild. And you're like, no, I'm part of this community. Oh,
yeah. What about lunatic? Is that one okay?
No.
Damn. I've been using that one a lot.
But, I feel like if this conversation was not being recorded, right? As someone who also identifies as like quite mentally ill, like I am mentally ill in the like, tick box kind of way, and also my lived experience. For us to have a conversation that is like, things that we would say, words that we would use, whatever. I think the same thing is true of sober people. It's like there's conversations that you and I could have or that I have with sober people that might be like inappropriate or uncomfortable or whatever, but it's our like prerogative to, use the words, have the conversation. However, this conversation's being observed. So it's like there's things that I would not say or whatever, Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I've known crazy, the C word, not that C word. I know that one's, I don't have a good alternative. And, I remember what my example was going to be. And it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, where I kind of like don't rise to values that I know are more ethical than mine. Veganism. Okay. Like when vegans try to make the argument, what you're doing is unethical, I'm like, correct. And they're always so surprised. Or someone's like, how is it different that like you love and you would never harm a cat, but then you go and eat a chicken or eat a pig or eat a sheep, which are smarter than cats. I'm like, correct.
You're like, you're right.
You're right. And
you are.
I will sit here and take it and listen to it. And I'm not going to argue with you. Mm-hmm. And I might not even eat it around you if I know it'll bother you, but then I'm going to go and keep eating it. And I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, On the one hand, I don't care that much. On the other hand, I think pet ownership in and of itself is kind of fucked. Trapping an animal in your house to love you. We've bred these things to love us. Like, what does that say about us as a species? Like humans. So people are like, oh, the pets wouldn't live in the streets. They live longer lives within us. I'm like, you think if you go to the African wildcat or the wolves, this is the ancestors of cats and dogs, and we showed them and they could understand and conceptualize a picture of what captivity would look like, do you think they'd take the deal? No.
Right.
No. I don't think any African wildcat would be like, fuck no, you're not trapping me in your house and feeding me canned food, so in exchange, I'll love you. Like, no. and we did that. Like, we are not I'm not even, I'm talking about all of us humans. Like, yeah, we have some fucked up things about us that, I don't agree with, but I care that much at the end of the day. And if you were a vegan and an advocate for animals, and I was saying all this to you right now, you'd be like, David, and you'd give me 100 reasons that wouldn't even let me continue what I'm saying, and you'd be right to do it,
I'm not, so,
yeah.
we don't have to worry about that.
But my hot take is all the annoying shit vegans say is right. It's just, I don't.
It depends.
Fair
It depends.
Fair enough.
Any of the things,
Sure.
right? It's like, what is the lens through which this is being told? Is it convenient?
Sure.
Right.
I am generalizing a complete group of diverse people. I am generalizing their views. What's that?
I said diverse.
What did I say?
No. It's funny to me, like diverse, like saying diverse after everything we talked. Like, you're not wrong. It's not a use of the word. I just
there are
find it funny.
vegans for religious reasons. There's vegans because they don't, for health reasons. There are vegans who care about animals a lot. Like, it's a lot of things,
I think there's hypocrisy and like paradox in everything. I feel,
Yeah.
And again, like I'm so disinterested at this point in like intellectual exercises about things, where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to make certain choices and espouse certain values and ideals that I'm going to work towards, and I'm going to try to live in principle and all that. And at the end of the day, I'm still also human. Like, I'm a human being and I'm flawed and I can't do everything, perfectly. And also our like values and perceptions of values and principles change with our environments. So it's like, for everything that we think we're like, doing right and are righteous about, more will be revealed, however long into the future. Like, it just, like, I think all I want from people is for them to do their best. And if their best is like really, really shit, then like, yeah, maybe I'm not going to fuck with you. But I don't know. Like, I listen to misogynistic music. Like, sometimes I have to listen. I have to, for my own whatever, listen to that. And am I like a hypocrite as like a feminist and someone who does gender-based violence prevention work? Yeah, okay. Like a bit, somewhat.
Good. You admitted it. You fucking hypocrite. The only person who's a hypocrite is the one who doesn't admit it. How profound is that? Put it on my gravestone. I'm the first person to think of that.
What else?
No, I'm loving this. I'm actually good to end off, or unless you want to keep going. To me, this was like exactly what I want to do with this medium. I don't want to be like, Samantha Bitty's here. Here are the 5 sex advice things that you need to tell your mom while having sex with your boyfriend. I don't know. That's when you open your mouth thinking something great's going to come out, that's what just happened to me, and nothing great came out. I just mean, this is a real conversation. This is what I want to do with this medium.
Yeah. No, I always enjoy talking to you.
Fuck commercial radio. I'm still decompressing, but yeah, fuck it.
Yeah. Multiple truths can exist.
Yeah.
I made the choice to prioritize my mental health this year and to prioritize my relationships with my friends and, all of that. And the outcome of that has been a lot of like lost momentum in my career and lost income and lost opportunity to do the work that I actually like love to do and like need to do to make purpose and sense out of my life. And that's just where we are, like, and I think like we as in me as in whatever. So, I'm not remorseful. And there's also consequences that I'm dealing with and navigating. And I know your situation is very different, but I think that there is still, like, it's okay that you're still grieving a certain way of being whilst also doing something that feels really like far more authentic.
Yeah.
Like,
I wish I could not feel guilty about time, quote unquote, misspent. Just more accepting of myself. But to ask me to do that would be to be anti-Semitic. So you can't ask me to do that.
bye.
What? Being stressed out about everything?
No, I can't be a witness to that joke because I'm not dating someone Jewish anymore.
That gave you privilege to laugh? I've actually heard.
Proximity? No, we talked.
I've heard Miranda. She's like, at work, I said a joke that was iffy, and then I was like, my boyfriend's Jewish, and I'm like, you just made the black friend argument. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
I've done that where I say like some fucked up homophobic shit because I like in the world where people are homophobic, that's like not my world, and so in my world, we're post-gay, we can make jokes like this.
Right.
That is not the world we live in, and so I always come to my rescue by saying I have a gay brother, and if it's not enough, I'll be like, I was the best man at the wedding, and then I'm like, oh my god, who am I? I haven't done that in a while.
But it's really funny how we kind of hierarchize those bonds as being enough proximity to something. So like gay brother is like, I give that that's like in a deck of cards, aces high, that's like a 10 or like a jack. Like if you're not sucking a dick, like if you are not actively sucking a dick or have sucked a dick, like, gay brothers, like.
So if in a formal context, maybe around my coworkers, I could, rather than saying I have a gay brother, I say, don't worry, I've sucked a dick.
Don't worry, I've sucked a dick. And it's like, okay, like queen.
Yeah. What's the king?
If you're still actively sucking dicks. Yeah.
Ace is high. So if I have a dick in my mouth and out of the corner of my mouth say something, I say something awful and homophobic, anti-gay, then I got the ace.
Proof positive. Yeah.
I'm not saying this is a conundrum I find myself in regularly. Have you ever said something that crossed the line because a world in which people cross the line and are taken seriously as if it's not a joke? It doesn't exist in that moment. And then all of a sudden that sobering thought, oh no, that's very much the world I'm in right now.
No. For an extremely long time, I think, because I've because of the work I do. But as I said, in private conversation, constantly pushing the line, and again, as a means of like release, as a means and with only folks who get the joke. Yeah. And should get the joke. Yeah.
Keep in mind, I was a budding beginner stand-up comedian for 5 years until I had the good graces to quit. So like that's learning about what the line is professionally. And so learning about that line at the beginning stages, you're always going to cross it. If the line is curious, if you're curious about the line.
I think too, like with comedy, it's, that's the house that it lives within. And I think, the being the best man at the wedding, that then becomes like Jack, because it's like, not only is my brother homosexual, I support him and his love partner and their public expression of love. And they know that and trust me so much that I was a representative of that love and sharing it with our community. And, so it's like Jack.
What about at the bachelor party? They said they were going to be wearing negligees. They were kidding. I brought a negligee. I was the only one wearing it. And I was with 7 or 8 gay dudes, and they kept on calling me Johnny's gay brother, which is so funny to me because my brother does not, stereotypical, and I know these stereotypes are problematic, but he doesn't seem gay. And I know just even saying that's fucked up, but whatever, I said.
We all know what you mean. We all know what the intention of that comment is. Yeah.
Am I still at a Jack, or is that a queen? I looked good in the negligee.
It's not a queen until...
Damn.
Yeah.
I looked fine in that negligee.
Right. You're like, you're a cross-dresser, but...
Then the Lady Gaga, they started playing Lady Gaga. I couldn't keep the way they were dancing. I could not keep up.
Well, you're also not a dancer. You're like, I like to stand at the side of the dance floor on my phone, or even not on my phone, just staring off into the abyss. Waiting for it to be over. Like, so, you got to meet yourself where you're at.
Yep.
And, I think the inner question is, how did the negligee make you feel? Like, how did you feel inside?
I remember before I wear boxer briefs, I wore boxers. And when I was a kid, I had silk boxers.
Oh,
And it brought, that Ratatouille moment where the food critic eats it and it's reminded of his childhood.
right.
The feeling of silk on my nasty bits. And they're nasty because I should shower more. I'm not saying everyone has nasty bits. It felt good. Yeah, it felt good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
It's a ridiculous conversation. Samantha, it's good to see you.
Nice to see you too. I'm so glad that we scheduled a chat.
I am too. You look nice. I know you've been talking about your various injury ailments, but you look, I don't know, you have good, I don't know. You look,
well,
vitality, is that a word? You look like you're full of vitality.
It's only because I'm talking to you. I just did a round of Botox recently, and I did like a really robust skincare routine today. So I'm all like oily and acided up. So I appreciate the compliment. I might even go outside today. Who knows? But one thing that I will say about my injury, that I wanted to tell you was that, so it's a knee injury that I got from softball. It's like a long-standing injury, aggravated by a collision. And it's been like 3 weeks. It's supposed to heal, but I keep having rough sex. And it like sets me back. And like, I'm not telling, like, I haven't told my like softball team that. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe you're not like better. Like, what's happening? I didn't tell my physio either. He's like, oh, you're improving. Like, you should be improving more. And I'm like, yeah, I just like keep sitting on people's faces though. And it's aggravating my injury.
Can't you use like a chair or something? Just sit at the chair. Like, come on. Can't you pick a rough position that doesn't aggravate the knee?
No.
The answer is yes.
My stepsister made a joke about having a dick sucking pillow, like to like assist. But like sex and disability is like a really interesting conversation, and we should definitely talk about it next time, about like having adapted ways of fucking, or like having different types of like mobility assists for sex, and like how it feels. Like when you're navigating it, it can like feel unsexy. Like when I'm like being moved and I'm like, ow, I like feel unsexy. Like there's like an internalized shame about not being fully mobile.
Yeah.
So I wonder if some of that internalized shame has like motivated me to like still do the face sitting and stuff. But not that that's the rough sex part, but like just in general, I was thinking about it this morning, like, okay, there's a consistent pattern of like the day after I've been like railed that my knee hurts more.
I can't tell you what to do. But if I could tell you what to do, I'd say the railing for the next 3 weeks, pick a position that doesn't aggravate the knee. Can you do that? Don't you want to play softball again? I'm not your parent, but I know I'm acting like one. But that'll be the consequences.
I know, but like consequences are so hard to be aware of in moments.
Yes. I think that unites us all as people.
That's why we have plan B. Like, it's so hard to make.
It's capacity for self-deception. I think that unites us, the best of us and the worst of us, on the far quarters of the earth and right here. I think our capacity for self-deception. Every few years they find a child in the woods who, was lost, and then they don't have any language, and they call them feral. I don't know if that's a kind word, but that's what they call them. Like, I still think that person and the most sophisticated, I don't know what, and everyone in between. Mm-hmm. Self-deception, I think. Yeah.
There's a popular meme right now that is like, Delulu is the Solulu. Like, delusion is the solution, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, Delulu is the Solulu.
So keep fucking however you want to fuck, and maybe you'll play baseball in 2035, Samantha.
Maybe. It's like, which one is more important for my mental health? That's what I have to really sit in reflection on today.
That I can't answer.
I'll get back to you.
But if we're talking face sitting and softball, you know what I'm going to choose. The soup.
Right.
Oh man, it's like I finally remember the joke. It's like it's a boomer joke, but grandpa's getting old, and for his 90th birthday, whatever, they hire him a sex worker. They don't tell him, but they hire him one. So she comes to the old folks home, and she's like, Mr. Old Man, whatever. do you want some soup or sex? Like super, you know? And he's like, I'll take the soup. He's like, it's a very kind offer, but I'll take the soup. That's the street joke that I've been reaching for my whole life, because that is me. I love soup.
You do.
I
You
love
do.
soup. I still remember somebody got me lentil soup. And that somebody was you.
It was me.
Very,
Yeah. Was that your birthday or what was it? Why does it you?
It might have been my birthday. It was a day when I really appreciated it extra. I don't know for what reason. Probably my birthday.
Something was going on, and I was like, I need to send this motherfucker some soup. And Miranda helped me coordinate, and it was a collective effort.
Takes a village to make an idiot.
I mean, I'm polyamorous. It's like how I am in my friendships. It's how I am. Like last night, I made ginger shots for my date's partner because she's like really sick. And I was like, I asked her, I was like, do you have ginger shots? She's like, no. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make some and send some home with your man. It just, I don't know. It's just, that's how I practice care for other people. So sending you soup, not that you aren't special. You absolutely are.
No. Feels very old world, trading food for a man. You know, this is something that could have happened 15,000 years ago as humans in the Fertile Crescent in the Middle East were just learning about agriculture. I'll trade you some, I don't know, pomegranates for your man. And it's like, yeah, sure. That's fine.
They were good ginger shots. Like I put a lot of love into them. Yeah. So,
no, it was good soup. Lentils high up in the list. And you know what? You're very thoughtful, because I had been telling you that lentil, although not my favorite soup, had piqued my curiosity recently. I was very lentil curious. So it was really on point. It was like, it was a soup of the time. You know, it wasn't one of the classics, but it was something. You ever get food things where for a short period in your life, you're very curious about it? It may not be a favorite. It may never be a favorite, but you're just kind of obsessed with it in the moment.
Yeah, of course.
Very thoughtful of you. Thank you.
I have that with focaccia.
Right.
I go through like focaccia periods where I'm like, I want to try all the different kinds of focaccias.
I have a temperamental relationship with eggs, which apparently is quite common. A very fraught relationship. One day I'm like, I've cracked the code. I'll have poached eggs every day and I'll be fine. And then after a few days of that, I'm like, these are disgusting. I have not cracked the code. And then I'll get it with scrambled eggs and I'll crave them. And then the fifth time I have them, I'm like, this is rancid. Do you get that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I go through phases and then certain things like sick me out. Like I'll have a week where I make like bacon and eggs for dinner every night with like a particular bread and like all that. And then it's like, I don't want this in my house for 6 months. Like yeah.
Loose eggs with like the goopy white on top, like over sunny side up. Sometimes I'm like, more goopy white. Love the goopy white. Sometimes I'm like, that is an embryo. Get it away from my face. Cook that. I want an over medium egg. I don't want any risk of the goop.
Over medium is the perfect egg.
Right now for you. But believe me, it'll change if you're like me.
No, I feel like I have consistently my entire life been an over medium kind of person. And it's such a hard egg to perfect. And so a lot of times I will be like over easy whites cooked, because then the inners are going to be yolky enough still and not overcooked, because over medium, by the time it gets to your table, can have like cooked too much.
Over hard.
Yeah. And a hard egg, I throw in the garbage. I'm just like, sorry, chicken, sorry, whatever, everyone who plucked the egg, fuck this egg. I'm not eating it.
Sorry, chicken that never was. Yeah, I sometimes like a fully hard, like I'll take a hard boiled egg. Sometimes I'm on the hard egg train.
No, never. It's like chalk in
so
your
for
mouth.
you, it's how do you like your eggs? Over medium or fertilized?
Over medium or like poached medium. I like a yolk. Like I like a yolky yolk, but I need all the whites to be cooked. I can't any like no. You
need set whites.
I need set whites and yolky yolks.
Yolky yolks.
Yolky yolks.
Set whites, yolky yolks. That's how Samantha Bitty likes her eggs.
For anyone who wants to send me breakfast, since nobody fucking cares about me or takes care of me.
Your address is 123 Definitely Real Street, Toronto, Canada.
555-555 postal code.
Okay, I got nothing else.
All right. I hope you have a good day.
I just reached in, you know when you reach, you're like, something will come. Nothing came.
I'm good with it.
I hope you have a good day too.
Thank you. I'm going to have my nap now.
Oh, and as always, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I'll choose to believe you on that one.